Welcome to The Weekly. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Chris.
And this week on The Weekly, Sony to buy Kadokawa, a big publisher, a new Grimdark setting, another defector of Games Workshop, Household Volume 2 is now crowdfunding, and Elf Creek Games. So we're going to kind of go from the best of crowdfunding to the maybe the worst that's happened in a while.
Okay.
Not maybe the worst, but it's, you know,
It's
one of those companies caught in the trap. So let's start out with this. This was kind of big news kind of everywhere. So tabletop, animation, comics, even like light novels and stuff. So Sony has been talking to, so they've frozen the, not frozen, but there's been some conditions put on the stock at this time to make sure that this news doesn't drive things. Like they've limited the trading of this stock. Yeah, Sony's
they assume that this kind of news could potentially inflate the price of
there
things
could be,
Okay.
And so and I guess maybe that's a thing Japanese stock market does, but they're keeping an eye on Kadokawa because there's news that they are in talks with Sony to be purchased. And I couldn't imagine, this is like Disney buying Star Wars. You're just like, this is not going to go well because Sony is a terribly managed company. All of their departments don't talk to each other at all. So Kadokawa is the owner. So the Kadokawa has a lot of properties that have done really well in games, such as Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Bloodborne, and those have all come to the tabletop in board game form from Steamforged or Come On, and so that's how it's going to affect tabletop. And so there have been two anonymous sources that have reported this, but this company is pretty huge. They own print media, anime, and gaming, both video and tabletop. Gaming. Yeah, wow. They own it. And this is all in the midst of so what they're thinking is this may create stronger international opportunities for tabletop designers impacted by U.S. tariffs and the EU soon to be implemented general safety regulations, which is going to make everything cost more. So, and even Japan has had kind of a board game boom. They're talking about the domestic tabletop market for games and card games doubled from 2018 to 2022 in Japan. It's in Japan only. So there is an appetite for that. And that we talked about this back when this happened. Kadokawa did acquire Arclight, which ran the Japanese game convention, and they have a lot of participation in tabletop. And that was in April. So that was actually earlier this year. Wow, it seems like years ago, but it was just earlier this year. And then immediately, the funny thing about that is immediately after they did that, they were hit by a ransomware attack and a bunch of their customer data was leaked. But so Kadokawa currently owns FromSoft, so that's why they have Dark Souls and Armored Core as well. There you go. Oh yeah, so the trading for Kadokawa stock is bid only with a daily limit of 3,745 yen. So that's what they did to try to prevent some speculating and jumping on this. But this is really going to change because Sony, the thing that people are worried about is Sony recently purchased a couple of the cheesy anime, the localizing American anime companies, and Crunchyroll. They have a big stake in Crunchyroll as well. So that means it's going to be going through Sony whatever if you want to see day after releases of Japanese anime with subtitles, because that's basically what Crunchyroll.
This affects me how?
Well, it doesn't affect you, but
sorry, is that the cost?
But that was kind of a golden age because that didn't exist. You were seeing, you're getting anime localized from Japan, 3 years, 5 years later. You're watching stuff from the 80s and the 90s in the US, and it was day after, literally day after it aired on television, it would be on Crunchyroll with subtitles. So that was crazy. So that may be changing, and so they're worried about kind of an anime monopoly is the thing that it seems most disturbing about this. I don't think it's going to disrupt board games as much. It might actually give people more opportunity to get their stuff out there, but they have a lot of popular titles, and Kadokawa recently as 2021 said they guarantee they're going to be, and this may explain the quality and your fandom relationship with anime. 40 new titles a year for anime.
Produce at least 40 new anime titles.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yes. But they have had some hits. Delicious in the Dungeon, ReZero, and The Rising of the Shield Warrior.
Well, okay. there is overlap between gaming and anime, so I do get some news. I think Delicious in Dungeon was a manga first, right? So I mean, it's original anime, and that it hasn't been an anime before, but it's an established. I don't know how popular the manga was, but it's an established title.
Right. Yeah. So Sony, Funimation, that was the stupidly named company. So Funimation has a big stake in Crunchyroll, and they merged or acquired Funimation. So Crunchyroll has the exclusive rights to a lot of anime titles going to the U.S. So that's the only way you can see most of them, like Dragon Ball Daima and Dun 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 Dun. So those have been popular, and it's going to create a kind of a weird situation. So maybe good for anime fans, because things will continue to very quickly get there, but there's only going to be a few channels where you're going to be seeing a lot of this stuff. But for board games, we may get more and more. Every successful FromSoft game will hit your tabletop.
Or we might get successful anime titles in board game form.
Oh, that's another thing we could expect. Although Sony is really bad at communicating between its different departments, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that was kind of an odd thing, and it's not finalized yet. But obviously, because because of the stock market thing, people are pretty suspicious that that's what's going to happen. So a big company being right. So everything being under Sony. So watch it on your PlayStation 5 Pro. Yeah. All right. This was funny news on wargamer.com. They're talking about, another defector, Thomas Elliott, former Games Workshop artist, is now creating his own Grimdark setting. So I'm curious what you think about this. So an original sci-fi universe. So for over 5 years, he was a full-time member of the art team at GW, working on 40K and Age of Sigmar. I think he did the third edition cover for the Age of Sigmar core rulebook. I'm not a huge fan of the stuff he did for Age of Sigmar, but I think that's more Age of Sigmar's fault than the artist's fault. It's just not a very interesting subject. But he has created a Grimdark setting that he's calling Eskaton, a far-off future of miniature wargaming. So Elliott says he's been drawing and painting for money since graduating art school. Oh, I didn't know there would be bragging about 10 years ago.
The way you phrase that maybe could be better, but is it any different from saying I've been doing this professionally since high school? Because I mean, really, that's what professional means. I do this for money,
right?
As opposed to amateur.
Yeah, and if you say that, usually that means you were smart enough to skip art school. Oh, and
I was not.
And so I wouldn't consider myself a true professional until I started working as part of the Games Workshop team in 2018. I had the honor of working on Battletome covers for Age of Sigmar. I consider all these paintings a highlight. He did the Blades of Corn, the Ogor Mog tribes, and the Daughters of Cain covers. So growing up,
by GW.
yes, growing up, I looked at the art of Warhammer. So the Warhammer artists of the early 2000s were a strong influence. People like Alien, Adrian Smith, Alex Boyd, Paul Danton, and Karl Kaczynski. And then fresh out of art school, I wanted to do dark sci-fi illustrations, but I didn't simply want to do 40K fan art. So I figured I would go easier and do epic battle scenes, big illustrations if I had pre-established characters and narratives. But before long, I was doing an original universe and have been adding to it ever since. So he says, in this setting, space travel is imperfect. Technology has plateaued. The colossal distance between worlds means planets once inhabited become forgotten. There's no equivalent to the Imperium of Man because a cohesive empire would be impossible. An expedition into unknown space means discovering alien cultures only to find out that they are human colonies isolated and left to evolve on their own. It's been done, sir. But anyhow,
this sounds like it's based mostly on art style, and this might be uncharitable, but I ain't hearing nothing new so far, right? I mean, that's okay. That's not to say it's going to be bad, but just where's the new here?
So he says, I try to work on it every day, even spending hours or two sketching. So where most people like to go on holiday, I'm in my home studio.
Work-life balance, my friend.
Yes. So he's recently been focusing on this thing he's calling Neo-plasia, a death toxic death world where millions live on board walking mining facilities ruled by a totalitarian regime, a horrific mutagen gives the oppressed inhabitants of the world an opportunity to rise up, which soon escalates into a global conflagration of violence. That should be the name of the setting, Global Conflagration of Violence.
Trademark now. Okay, that's my next miniature war game skirmish idea, conflagrations of violence. There you go.
So the reason that he has a little hope in this becoming something is because of the breakout success of Trench Crusade.
Right, okay.
But Trench Crusade was the pairing of an artist and a game designer. This is just an artist, so good luck with that. So popular culture has been regurgitating the same IPs for decades, he says, or he muses. But I think we are starved for original settings, and people are excited to see new, unfamiliar, imaginative worlds. So check out
Where was the new in that?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, visually, maybe. We'll have to take a look.
All I'm looking at is text over here.
Right. So check out Elliott's Instagram if you want to see kind of what he's been working on and posting this kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, we definitely need this, but we also need good mechanics and companies that can actually support.
To be honest, I was rather uncharitable during that section. However, my first encounter with Trench Crusade, and I forget the guy's name, was just the art being posted to Instagram from the person's account. I said, wow, that's dark. And I think that's what happened with Trench Crusade. It was just one artist working on this kind of setting that he had that just kind of kept expanding, and eventually enough people kind of liked it, and things got paired together with mechanics, and it kind of years later jumped off on this giant steamroller thing. So, I mean, there's no reason that the same thing couldn't happen. I don't know if there's going to be a game attached to this, but maybe what you said, maybe the thing to do, or maybe an approach here would just to be develop the setting, maybe pair up with digital sculptors to produce some miniatures, right? Because there are any number of miniature agnostic skirmish games out there, right? So just kind of encouraging people to play in your setting or use things in your setting would be a way to get attention, and then later on say, you know what, and now here's the official game when you actually have enough attention. I'm not saying that's what is or is not going to happen, but that's a way to do it.
So he's saying right now the Neo-plasia phase of Eskaton will be released as a glossy hardback art book and a range of high-quality 75mm miniatures. Yeah, so
I should have shut up because he's already doing it.
He's already there. Yeah, already thinking. And also, if he's thinking 75, he's thinking just for painters. Yeah, he's thinking. So Mindworks Studios he's working with. So he dreams of a whole shelf of books. Of art books, I suppose. But hooking up with a writer, I think, I mean, especially from his connections with Games Workshop, hooking up with a good writer and kind of fleshing some of this stuff out would definitely be worth it. And they are in early stages of preparing their own skirmish game based on the universe. Yeah, okay.
Okay, sure. Early stages, don't know what that means. Maybe it just means talking to people, being like, I have this idea, right? But
if somebody, but the nice thing about the internet now, though, is there are designers, the designer of Frostgrave could be looking at his, Instagram and say, wow, I would like to, design some mechanics for that.
I like Joseph McCullough stuff. I don't see that matching.
No, I don't think so. I just pulled that. I just tried to pull something. Yeah. But, a designer that, because now it's out there and can be inspiration for people and, people that have already have ideas, for mechanics and things. Yeah, so it could be interesting. But so we'll see. We'll keep an eye out for this. I'm sure it's going to crowdfunding. If it's going to be an art book in miniatures, it will soon hit crowdfunding.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, how could it?
Oh yeah. Right? He's not enough of a household name for people would instantly go to his online store and be buying things. So yeah, definitely. Plus,
I mean, it costs a lot to. I can only imagine how much it costs to produce a hardback, full color art book.
Yeah, right.
Unless you're already wealthy, you're not just gonna print a bunch of those up and hope people buy
have them sitting in your garage. Right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Anyway.
If
they did 75mm, maybe what you can do is scale them down and use them for the defunct 54mm to use for Inquisitor.
Yes, right. Yes, that's true. But like you're saying though, with all the miniature agnostics games, get miniatures out there and see who likes them. All right, so let's start out with a positive experience on crowdfunding.
I disagree, Matt. Skirmish games are not going to have a bubble burst. They're very popular.
All right. So Household Volume 2, we talked about the bundle of holding last week. If you want to catch up on Volume 1. So it is now live, the crowdfunding for this
I
next
think they've already
expansion.
met their goal.
Yeah, pretty quickly. I think it was like they pressed
the button and instantly.
Oh! Yeah, it has a little bit to do with things being priced a little dear, but you're getting amazing quality for it. I mean, it's worth the price, but it's a painful looking number, especially with that euro symbol next to it. You're like, that's even more dollars, isn't it?
As interesting as this looks, I will definitely not be backing it because that is a big number.
Yeah, and they did have and the nice thing is everything offered from the first, and they did this with Outgunned as well. All the exclusive stuff, everything they produced for the first crowdfunding is available in the second, and this is on BackerKit, so they're making as much money as possible from this, which is great because now they've got two systems, 2 settings, 2 systems they're supporting. I don't know the systems are all that different, but they're supporting both Outgunned and Household.
I'll have to look into this because I thought Household used something similar where you were also looking for matching dice.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. I don't think it's identical, but yeah, it uses the suits. Their icons, they use the suits of playing cards. And so there will be new folk and new vocations, additional mechanics tied to changing seasons and colossal opponents. And so the previous version won Product of the Year, Best Production Value. They easily could win Best Production Value. They're really everything they do is really gorgeous. So the setting, of course, is little folks living grand tiny adventures in a big abandoned house set in a Regency-like era. Yes. And what was it? The wainscot? What was the...
it was... I'm drawing a blank on it. Wainscot Fantasy?
Yeah, yes, you're right. So 100 years after the disappearance of the Master. So they're in an empty house and, So the original 4 playable little folks in the first version were fairies, boggards, sloughs, and sprites, and they will be adding in this second volume fae, gnomes, bargas, and Shinigami.
I kind of rolled my eyes a bit when I saw that.
Right. It's cute. Okay. It's playful. Like they're doing playful things with like the the rhinoceros beetles and stuff. But yeah, it is like a little on the nose as far as like there's. I was talking to someone earlier today and like whenever I see like Japan or something Japan in the game, I'm kind of like.
I'm going to steer away from that unless I look at the authors and be like, oh yeah, you're
right. Yeah, but I think all of this is kind of and they're expanding like you're going out into the yard, so you're leaving the continent of Europe. You're leaving the continent of Europe. So they wanted to probably something that appealed to them and maybe appeal to the illustrator, like something visually that would be fun to do. And I think
like we discussed last time, this might possibly be a way to do kind of 19th century European history without or trying to minimize the baggage that comes with. And like you said, okay, we're going out of the house, which means we're kind of going to like more exotic countries. And I just hope they haven't like orientalized one group of people. Anyway,
we'll see. We'll see how that goes. So the garden is the new setting. Some call it the Outhold or the Endless Green. Some see it as harsh, inhospitable land, inhospitable, and some call it the last bastion of freedom. Some strive to conquer it. Poor souls. The truth is, nothing out there is like anything on the inside, and it is immeasurably vast, too vast even. And yet, if you know where to look, you can maybe find yourself. There we go. Yeah, so first you have to leave the old porch and then get yes. So, and of course, a map of the garden is going to be done by Fabio Porfidia. I think the same illustrator that was working previously. And everything that they produce is great. The map itself, the backside of the map is a candy wrapper. There's like a logo for it.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I like that.
And the thing that just hit me with this game too, because they produce miniatures for it, I'm like, oh shit. Are the miniatures like 1-to-1 scale? Oh man, I didn't even think of that. When I'm unboxing this, I'm just like, oh yeah, little people, and here's the miniatures of the little people. No, those are not miniatures.
They're actual little people.
They're 1-to-1 models of the little people. So that like does, I understand why they wanted to produce miniatures, and that also does make it kind of fun, like what you could do when you're playing in person on the table.
Just toss a handful of buttons on the table or something, and here's your rough terrain thing.
Yeah.
Watch out, they've got a paperclip. Ah, right, that's not 19th century. I wonder, okay. I do like that idea, and with the idea that these are not miniatures. These are actual size models of the little people you're playing. I wonder if that has I think it has the potential to maybe take away, because if it's all theater of the mind, like the scale of stuff can kind of change, right? And you might be describing this massive room and everything's real high, but then if you actually have the thing, you're like, well, the room's not actually going to be that big, right? Because you can actually compare,
right? That's a funny thing though, because that does, if it is like 28 mil or 30 mil, like, just over, an inch, or over 2 inches, it gives you that that idea though. I think theater of the mind might be a little bit better once you have like for reference, your miniature for reference, that
flip side.
So that's I thought that was very funny. But as Chris said, they have already smashed their goal and have even unlocked things like the roof. So another new part of the set.
Like, I gotta admit, like, I'm cash poor right now, I can't go look at this, but I gotta admit, like, there's some interesting stuff coming out of this where it's just like, the roof. Like, of course,
that's
the roof,
and everything is
like
flying. Yes, right. Yeah. So again, this is Two Little Mice, and so this is. I apologize, Rico Sirigano and Simone Formicola, and the amazing artist Daniela. I'm so sorry, Gubellini. But beautiful work. She really does amazing. And I think during these crowdfunders, they squeeze her hard because they need, everything that gets unlocked, they need new art for. So she's probably, chained to her drawing tablet.
Or they have things planned well enough where this is already kind of done.
I'm sure it's, but that came out. They unlocked a little bit too much with the last Outgun, and she was literally drawing stuff to post on the page. So this is, of course, on BackerKit, and the thing you should be aware of, though, this is not a tiny undertaking, and they're predicting not charging shipping until December of next year. So you've got a while to decide which add-ons you're going to put in there and whatever. And they did do a pretty kind of conservative estimate of the shipping costs. So it's pretty heavy. It's like 2 heavy boxes, one full of hardback books and then one full of the accessories and things. So it's considerably heavy, and they're estimating for their kind of basic set, not the double set, but their basic set, about 30 euros for shipping for rest of the world.
God only knows what that'll be in December 2025.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, if tariffs and things have changed, expect in North America. Italian-made board games tabletop RPGs, get out of here with that. Yeah. But some really nice, and like I said, everything is available, and I'm sure there's even add-ons for Outgunned and things, because they do support their other properties as well. And this does include The Art of Household, which is a landscape format art book featuring high-quality prints and close-ups of the beautiful illustrations from both volumes 1 and 2. Nice. So that's 200-page hardcover is included. So lots of stuff, custom dice, decks of cards, miniatures produced for the second volume. And this is great to see, because I guess this had, Italians had been enjoying this for a while. They localized it, working with Common, and then couldn't make that work, but they did it on their own. Like they brought it to the English-speaking market, and now it's flourishing because there's a lot of very happy fans of this. So take a look and be prepared for the sticker shock, but know that Kickstarter is not getting not getting any of that money. So it's supporting a good studio, and it's great to see. Great to see them. And leading up to this, they did a really nice series of live streams with reveals, and so they're really handling everything well.
I guess I know how to run a good campaign.
Yeah, definitely. So check that out if you have some interest in wainscot fantasy
and a rather thick wallet.
And really sturdy shelves, because it's a serious book. All right, so let's take a look. But of course, there's a PDF version as well. You can go all digital. Let's take a look at what you don't do with crowdfunding. Oh boy! So I keep ending on a downer. I apologize for that. Elf Creek Games has several crowdfunded board games that are overdue. 4, in fact, and. Yes, they haven't given official updates since August, on any of these crowdfunding pages. So things like Atlantis Rising, Honey Buzz were shown off, and we're posting about things on social media up to October 10th. They even showed up at Spiel Essen on the 23rd of October, but there's been no official No official updates on the projects since August of this year, end of August this year. So there's 4 outstanding crowdfunding projects: Merchants of the Dark Road, Honeybuzz, Atlantis Rising, and their newest game, which has very little hope of seeing daylight, Paradox Initiative. And the sad thing that's getting all caught up in this is the Merchants of the Dark Road was bundled with Santa's Workshop Deluxe. So you won't be seeing that for Christmas.
Okay.
But anyhow, it looks like... and so this is kind of, people are starting to get worried about what's going on. Or is this another mythic kind of thing where, someone's going to have to buy these things to bail them out? Because they are reporting that some things, they're trying to complete fulfillment by Christmas on some of these things. There is stuff waiting in warehouses. Stuff is waiting to be fulfilled, but... both North American and European backers have a few of them have received Honeybuzz, but that's just a few, and that's not everybody. And people are like, "What is going on?" And they're 4 deep into this mess. Paul Solomon, a designer on Honeybuzz, announced that he left the company on the 16th, and he repeatedly contacted their partner Allplay about Honeybuzz. And is trying to provide fans with updates about the shipments and things. But and there was another artist that they talked to. Perhaps it was a different article that was saying he was working on a royalty-based, maybe royalty-only based, and they haven't broken his contract yet because the game hasn't shipped yet. So he's just waiting and seeing like everybody else. So it was like very little comfort to the backers. And so Brent Dickman, the founder of Elk Creek, has not weighed in on the situation. So everybody's eagerly waiting to see if this is going to actually happen. They're going to have to pull this apart, or they're just going to have to say, sorry, And it probably is the same thing that companies step in. They're like, okay, we didn't quite fund this one enough. Let's do another one, and then we'll spend the money we get for that one. And so by the time you're 4 in.
That's what I was going to wonder. Only having this information we discussed here, I wondered if that's what had happened, right? Okay, we're over. We need to make the money somehow. Let's use the money from this Kickstarter to fund the one or complete the one we just... But, if you get 4...
Yeah. And I wonder, too, we talk about, crowdfunding is not... big companies shouldn't be using it. It's not a pre-order system. But when you do support someone and say, this is just support, I don't expect to see anything, but I would like this to happen. But there's this entitlement or this ownership that people feel about these games and these companies. So it's like, I want an accounting of exactly what's going on and where my game is and why it's 3 months late.
I think, okay. So as someone who just had to cut down on their Patreon, I was supporting a lot of Patreons, this is only anecdotal, of course, where... I didn't necessarily 9 times out of 10 I forgot the monthly rewards. Right? Because I'm just I like what you're doing. Here's some money because I want you to be able to keep doing what you're doing. And the monthly reward stuff was just kind of like a bonus. I think there's some people like that with Kickstarter, but usually there's the option or crowdfunding to just say, here's some money, I don't expect a reward. Right? You can back at any level. Or more like, okay, I like this thing, a game would be nice. If in that case, I don't know. I kind of understand. I gave you money. I would like to know what happened to it. Right? It's when you kind of get all entitled and weird, and then you're like, no, I can't really agree with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the comment sections do get pretty rough on a lot of crowdfunding, and
those are just people with nothing to do except harass other people, right?
Right. And I guess once you're hundreds of dollars in, you really do have to think about. I don't know these people. I like what they're doing. I don't know what their business sense is. I don't know how they're managing their money. Giving them a couple $100 might not be a great idea. Yeah. So if it's money it hurt to part with, I don't think it's.
That's the thing too, right? You gotta. I don't use Kickstarter that much or crowdfunding that much anymore, but it's like if this company had a number of successful crowdfunding campaigns under their belt already, then you're like, okay, they probably know what they're doing, or they at least have been successful a couple times. It's when you get to the ones that are like first, right? The first project, or the game is mostly complete, but that I'm like, those are a couple red flags for me where it's like your game's got to be done, right? All we need is money to do this, right? But I don't know. Yeah. I can absolutely understand wanting to know what happened to your money, especially if you coughed up hundreds of dollars, right, for this kind of stuff. But you don't gotta get nasty about it.
Yeah. And if you had if the company was run well, they should have some business sense and to start looking, for a private investor to finish something or to just hand it over. We'll sell you this IP. We'll sell you everything that's been done. Just get it finished because we're unable to do it. But yeah, you never know. You never know what exactly.
I think in this case, it's the silence that's probably hurting them. And it hasn't been that long, only since like October. People kind of dropped silence. But if there was something about, we're looking to sell this off, just something other than nothing to allay people's fears and kind of stop.
Right. Yeah, and a funny detail, the Santa's Workshop designer said he's been in touch with the company several times, but nobody that he originally worked with is still with the company, so it's a bit difficult to get his questions answered. People seem to be leaving a sinking ship. So sorry to hear that for Elf Creek Games. I'm sure there's a lot of disappointed people, but this is just, I think it's the trap of crowdfunding. It's just like, it's money for nothing, and it's like you don't have to actually show results, and then you start getting yourself into
point taken. But I think like if you do that too much, you would burn yourself, right? As we've seen a couple times.
You eventually do. Yes, but that is going to do it for this week. On a down note, we're going on. So where can people find you?
On social media. And my brain just turned off about what there is, right? Mostly Blue Sky. That's Hivemind, HYVEMYND. I'm also on Threads and Instagram, only because I cross-post. Select groups in Facebook, because otherwise that place is a hellscape. And that's about it. Yeah.
All right.
So, how about you?
I'm trying to do a November stream, which should happen any day now, for my
November.
Yes, my single panel gag cartoon. So it's Abuse Cartoons on YouTube and Twitch. So and the stream, when it happens, will also show up on this channel that you may be watching on YouTube. And it's a single panel gag cartoon that I've been drawing for 20 years. And yikes. And if you'd like to read it, go to gocomics.com/domestic abuse.
I don't think I've done anything for 20 years.
Well, you've lived at least for that long.
That's a commitment, right?
Depending on your definition of living. If you look what we're doing here on the weekly, consider becoming a weekling.
The strongest of all supporters.
You can do that at patreon.com/upturntable, and upturntable.com is where you find everything that we've been up to. So the members for the next until the middle of December, members of the YouTube channel get a little treat. You'll get kind of exclusive long form videos that will be for YouTube members only, but they're going to make their way over to the other side of YouTube and links on Patreon and everything. And the audio for this live stream goes onto Patreon's RSS feed if you'd like to listen to it there. So as little as $1. Everything is available to you, which once everybody takes their bite out of it is much less than $1.
My goodness, I hadn't considered that. Right? Yeah.
But,
pennies a day.
Yes,
right?
for pennies a day. You can support these sad sacks. But so now on Blue Sky, right? Yep. So Upturn Table now on Blue Sky.
Thank you, Matt, for badgering Jeremy to do that.
Yes, thank you, Matt. So on all social media. So we'll be back again next week.
Yep. Later, mortals.
Goodbye. Surrender!